So the highlights for this week was a British Fantasy Society event and finishing beta reading someone else's book. The British Fantasy Society event was at Urmston Books and Board Games, which was a lovely venue. The topic was paths to publication, traditional, indie and self. Alethea Lyons, as the British Fantasy Society organiser for local events, was moderating. Emma Sterner-Radley represented traditional publishing, but she has had experience of all the avenues. Andrew Knighton represented indie publishing, but he has also had experience of all the avenues. W Dickinson represented self-publishing, and Northodox Press were also there. They're an indie publisher who's based up here in the north. It was a really interesting event, and the panel members were very open about their personal experiences. These kind of events are so useful to learn about the business side of being an author. It could also be a great way to get to know people in the writing space, if you're brave enough to talk to people afterwards, that is. So yes, part of the learning journey, right? The second highlight of the week was finishing a beta read of someone else's book. It was the first book I've ever beta read, and in usual me fashion, I had quite a bit of imposter syndrome. I'm not a professional, so what can I possibly have to add? But then I've been a voracious reader since I taught myself to read at a very young age. I was that kid who would turn up at the library with a duffel bag, wanting the maximum of the 10 books I was allowed, and then the next week I'd be back to swap them out for a new 10 books. So I've read a lot, I've read widely, and since I started working on writing my own book, I have done a lot of studying of writing craft. So actually, I do have useful input to offer. And in the end, I really enjoyed the opportunity to read someone else's draft and give input on what was working for me as a reader and what was not. And now that I'm not scared about doing it anymore, and I actually quite enjoyed it, I will probably put my hand up if someone else needs someone to beta read their book, because I thought it was a really enjoyable experience. And it's also changed my outlook on getting feedback on my own work. I know I desperately need feedback on my story, but I've been dreading getting it. But now I can see how useful that feedback can be. And so now I'm actually quite looking forward to it. So all in all, it's been a really good week. I hope yours was too.